After 50, many people begin noticing small changes that are difficult to explain. Reading feels a little slower. Concentrating takes more effort. Even simple decisions don't come quite as easily. It's tempting to blame age, or to worry that memory is beginning to slip. But the brain isn't always signaling decline. Sometimes, it isn't asking for another supplement, nor is it looking for a miracle solution. Instead, it's simply responding to the conditions it's been given. And one of those conditions is so ordinary that most of us barely think about it until we're thirsty. Water. Now, this isn't because drinking more water cures memory problems. It doesn't. And it's not because dehydration causes dementia. The scientific evidence simply doesn't support that claim. What hydration does affect is how efficiently the brain performs its everyday work. When the body doesn't have enough fluid, even mild dehydration can slow thinking, weaken attention, and make it harder to concentrate. Those temporary changes can easily resemble the cognitive symptoms that often cause concern. The brain is about 75% water. Every single second, billions of nerve cells communicate through tiny electrical and chemical signals. And those signals depend on a carefully balanced internal environment. Imagine trying to have a conversation over a phone line with a weak signal. The message still gets through, but not as clearly, and certainly not as quickly. Mild dehydration can have a very similar effect on the brain. Communication continues, but the brain has to work just a little harder to achieve the exact same result. Most of us have experienced days like that. You walk into a room and completely forget why. You reread the same sentence twice. You wonder if something is wrong, when sometimes your brain is simply asking for better support. Water helps maintain blood volume, supports healthy circulation, regulates body temperature, and delivers essential oxygen and nutrients to brain tissue. It also helps maintain the balance of electrolytes that nerve cells need to transmit information accurately. When hydration begins to fall, the brain doesn't suddenly stop working. Instead, it starts making subtle adjustments. Blood volume may decrease slightly. The heart works a little harder to maintain circulation. The brain protects its most essential functions. But tasks that require sustained attention, quick decisions, or mental flexibility may become noticeably more difficult. Many people describe that feeling as brain fog. Brain fog isn't a medical diagnosis. It's simply a familiar way of describing a mind that feels slower, less focused, or less sharp than usual. Study after study has reached a similar conclusion. Even mild dehydration can subtly affect attention, reaction time, mood, and the overall mental effort required for everyday thinking. While the exact effects differ from person to person, the overall pattern remains remarkably consistent. The brain performs at its absolute best when the body is well supported. For younger adults, thirst is often a reliable reminder to drink. But aging gradually changes that relationship. Our sense of thirst naturally becomes less sensitive. By the time an older adult actually feels thirsty, mild dehydration may already be developing. At the same time, the kidneys become less efficient at conserving water, and total body water naturally declines because muscle mass, which stores more water than fat, decreases with age. Daily life adds even more complexity. Some medications can increase fluid loss. Warm weather, illness, physical activity, or simply staying busy can make it easy to drink less than the body needs. Others intentionally limit fluids because they're worried about frequent trips to the bathroom, especially at night. Each factor may seem minor on its own. Together, they quietly increase the risk of dehydration. That's one key reason why healthcare professionals often consider hydration when evaluating sudden changes in thinking, particularly in older adults. It's also important to distinguish temporary cognitive changes from progressive neurological diseases. This is often the exact moment when worry begins, and honestly, that's completely understandable. Conditions such as Alzheimer's disease involve ongoing damage to brain cells over many years. Drinking more water cannot reverse those changes. Dehydration, on the other hand, can contribute to temporary confusion, reduced attention, slower thinking, and fatigue. In severe cases, especially in vulnerable older adults, it can also contribute to delirium, a sudden state of confusion that requires prompt medical evaluation. Because these symptoms can overlap with many other conditions, healthcare providers always look for reversible causes before drawing conclusions about long-term cognitive disorders. That distinction matters emotionally as much as it does medically. When every forgotten word feels like evidence of decline, anxiety naturally grows. Ironically, anxiety itself can interfere with memory and concentration, creating a cycle in which ordinary lapses become increasingly alarming. A small shift in perspective can help. Before assuming the worst, it helps to pause and ask a different kind of question. How have I been sleeping lately? Have I been moving my body? Under too much stress? Eating regularly? And drinking enough water throughout the day? These questions don't dismiss genuine cognitive concerns. They simply recognize that the brain reflects the health of the whole body. Hydration also reminds us of a broader truth about healthy aging. As we grow older, our bodies become less forgiving of small imbalances. Missing a few hours of sleep, skipping meals, becoming mildly dehydrated, or recovering from a minor illness may affect us more than they did decades ago. That's not simply decline. It's a reminder that resilience depends more than ever on consistent, daily care. Think of the brain less as an isolated organ and more as the conductor of an orchestra. The heart delivers blood. The lungs provide oxygen. The kidneys regulate fluid balance. Hormones coordinate responses. Muscles support movement. When one section falls out of rhythm, the music doesn't stop, but it may lose some of its beautiful clarity. Hydration is just one instrument in that orchestra. An important one, but never the only one. This perspective also protects us from oversimplified solutions. Social media often promises easy answers to complex problems. One day it's water. The next day it's a new supplement, a superfood, or a brain training app. But healthy aging rarely works that way. Long-term cognitive health is shaped by many different influences. Sleep, physical activity, heart health, nutrition, social connection, hearing, vision, stress management, and countless small, positive habits practiced consistently over many years. Water supports that larger system, but it can never replace everything else that keeps the brain healthy. For most of us, staying well hydrated doesn't require dramatic lifestyle changes. Keeping water nearby, drinking regularly instead of waiting for thirst, eating water-rich foods like fresh fruits and vegetables, and paying closer attention during hot weather or illness can all make a significant difference. Of course, individual fluid needs do vary, especially for those managing certain heart, kidney, or other medical conditions, so personal medical guidance always remains important. Perhaps the most valuable lesson here isn't about water itself. It's about resisting the urge to treat every single moment of forgetfulness as a prediction of the future. Our brains are remarkably dynamic. They respond to sleep, stress, movement, nutrition, hydration, emotion, and the demands of everyday life. Some days they perform effortlessly. Other days, they simply need a little more support. Recognizing that difference allows us to replace fear with curiosity. The goal of healthy aging isn't to eliminate every lapse in memory or every moment of mental fatigue. No brain, whether at 25 or 75, works perfectly every single day. The goal is to understand the conditions that allow the brain to function at its best, and to respond thoughtfully when those conditions change. Sometimes that response means speaking with a healthcare professional about persistent or worsening symptoms. Sometimes it means treating an underlying medical condition. And sometimes, it begins with something as simple as noticing that the body has been quietly asking for water all along. Growing older doesn't mean searching endlessly for miracle solutions. More often, it means learning to listen just a little more carefully to the body's subtle signals. In ordinary moments, refilling a glass, taking a walk, sharing a meal, getting a good night's sleep, we're supporting the remarkable partnership between body and brain that helps preserve clarity, independence, and the confidence to keep living life on our own terms. If today's perspective replaced even a little uncertainty with understanding, consider sharing it with someone who may need that reassurance. And if you'd like to keep exploring the science of healthy aging, we'd be honored to welcome you back to Thrive Beyond 50.